Today we're in my studio to talk a bit about my workflow and how I make tracks. I usually find the best stuff comes from having an idea, like coming here with some kind of intent. I do a lot of voice recordings, mainly on my phone and during sort of lying in bed or just walking around. And that really helps because I come here with some kind of notes, as opposed to, you know, starting a track with a kick drum and seeing what happens. It really helps to have an idea as a basis. It often turns out completely differently, but it gets me going, basically. I have some kind of purpose, otherwise I'm just sat here lost. For example, if it's a beat that I've sort of beatboxed really badly, I'll start probably by using the MFB Tanzbear, which has really good sounds, but I generally like to process everything I use. Also the Vimona MK2 is really good. And I'll do a sequence, perhaps combining the two. Now I don't have an external sequencer, so I sequence the Vimona with Ableton. It's just really flexible. I can go between clips. It's really easy to program. Also, you kind of end up with a lot of accidents. That's kind of what I really enjoy. And I guess using some stuff like it's not intended to be used, I suppose. Like I come up with a lot of leads with the Vimona, because you can really tweak all the different sounds. You can get different notes, and if it's all sequenced, end up with some interesting lead. It's then processed maybe through my little effects chain, which is Big Sky. The filter bank I use a lot, which is kind of a crazy, messy machine, but you can get some magic. The Waldorf Mini Works, which is a really old low-pass filter. I think it became known through Daft Punk. They used it for homework, so that was really heavily used, which you can hear kind of tweaking around. You can hear old bits. Yeah, I use the Roland R8. I used to program it, but it's quite awkward, so I tend to just do individual hits and sequence that in a drum rack in Ableton. Yeah, so if I've got my sequence going, let's say from more often than not, the Tanzbear and the Vimona, I'll probably record a sequence and do a live recording. That might be like 3, 5, 6 minutes. Tweak, change bits and pieces. Then sometimes I might use this entire recording through a track, but lately I tend to kind of find bits and chop it up, so I kind of sample myself a lot. And then I might have a little loop from that recording. I'll process that again. The Tanzbear and the Vimona kind of provide the basis, and then we'll have some kind of rhythmic element from that, which might be an accidental hook, and I'll be like, we can use the Pro 2 for a little melody that accompanies this little rhythmic element, you know? And the Pro 2 is amazing. I've been using that past couple of years a lot. Again, I pass it through a lot of stuff, but it sounds great. Yeah, the Vimona is really good for percussion, for synth sounds in a way, some kind of leads. Digitact is really cool. I use that a bit. That's really useful for complex sequences that's not just a 16-bar loop, where you can change all the individual steps, which really fits with my workflow at the moment, where there's lots of editing involved, so I like lots of changes. You know, another really fun little pedal is the Rainbow Machine. I mean, it's pretty limited, but again, you can get some kind of magic feedback, delay, harmonic distortion. Basically, yeah, a key part of the process is my mixer, which I'll have a couple of send channels. Maybe one send channel will be the Sherman filter bank. The other one will be the little effects chain, which is the Big Sky, the Waldorf, and the Rainbow Machine. So you can kind of send it to another send, and then back into Ableton, and then that might come back out again. And suddenly I've got, you know, loads of recordings, and I've got all these layers that basically kind of lead me down wherever the track's going to go. So I've got all my elements, highs, lows, mids, the rhythmic elements, the leads, And then I kind of focus on Ableton. So I kind of tend to have recording days where I get all the material, and then the rest will be just sequencing and chopping up, loads of editing. I mean, a lot of days I'll come here, I won't even touch gear. Lots of in the box. Past couple of years, a lot more. Yeah, so my monitors at the moment are the Focal Shape 65 and the KRK Rockets, the 6-inch, which I've had for years. They're really reliable, I think. It's good to have a pair. And quite recently got the Focals, but it's useful to kind of switch between the two to check mixes. I also recently got the Moog DFAM, which is really fun, and for me it's been very interesting because I've resisted modular gear all these years. So this is kind of like a little taste. It might be dangerous because it might kind of lead me down the wormhole eventually, but I'll try to resist. The only downside is for me, is the sequencing. So it's just got 8 steps, but I wanted to find a way to get long sequences out of it. So I did that through a drum rack in Ableton and using the ADV clock, like the CV from the sound card. That way I can have like a, let's say a 16 bar, any like 32 bar, whatever, long sequence with lots of different changes. And it has an interesting effect because that's just running through the 8 steps. So if you've got different notes going on that, you'll end up having, it almost sounds non-4/4, but it's within a 4/4 framework. So it still fits, but it's just constantly changing, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I hope it's been interesting or useful in some way. I'm not the most technical guy, but any questions about anything, feel free to comment and I'll answer everyone.